Great. Welcome, everybody. My name is Elaine Chang. I'm the Senior Manager for Global Market Development at TaroWorks, and we're so excited to be presenting our webinar topic for this month. So just for background, we built TaroWorks to help organizations manage operations in the last mile as easily as it can be done in the first mile. And that means being able to collect and access data even while you're in places without consistent cell coverage. And the goal for that is to be able to track operations and to make business decisions based on the data. So we're super excited to share an example of a group that's done this exactly. So IDE's WASH group will be sharing how they've optimized their process for linking orders and fulfillments of latrines in Cambodia. So we are joined today by Michelle Doguet, the WASH Director for Cambodia, and Gordon Lau, the Information System Architect. And before we get started, I'm just going to launch a quick poll to get a sense of who's in the audience today. So I'm going to launch that as we go over some housekeeping rules. So go ahead and answer that question. So in terms of housekeeping, this session will be recorded. And then everybody is on mute by default. If you would like to ask a question, you can type that into the question section, or you can raise your hand. We'll take clarification questions throughout the presentation, and then I'll kind of butt in if there's any kind of clarification questions. Otherwise, we'll try to keep the questions to the end. And that's it in terms of housekeeping. So looks like people are still voting. Okay, looks like it's stabilized, so let me close it and share. So it looks like 43% are using a system right now and are happy with it, and the other 43% are looking for a system. So great. Hopefully the IDE presentation will be kind of inspiration for what you can be doing. So with that, I'm going to switch over to Michelle.
Thank you, Elaine.
1 second. Let me just make sure that I can make you the presenter. Oops. Hide. Okay, great. So I think, Michelle, hopefully you have the presenter pop up. Michelle, do you see the presenter?
No, I don't see the dialog box.
Okay, let me try that again. It says you are the presenter.
I can click the button, show my screen.
I don't see it. Try making you an organizer.
Okay, let me try. I've just clicked a button that said show my screen.
Yep, there it is.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for the introduction, Elaine, and welcome everybody. My name is Michel Doguet, and I am the Program Director for the WASH program of IDE Cambodia. And for this presentation, I will assume that you know nothing or little about IDE and that you're not a sanitation expert. So if you know IDE and if you are a sanitation expert, please bear with me for the first 5 minutes of this presentation. So IDE is an American NGO who is having the philosophy of applying innovation and scaling up those innovations using natural market force as a way to solve big problems which can be described as global poverty. Our philosophy is that we won't be able, through philanthropy, donation, subsidy, grants alone, solving the very large problem and challenge which we are facing, and in particular that of poverty. Our founder, Mr. Paul Pollack, founded IDE more than 30 years ago, and Paul Pollack was obsessed at better understanding what he called the 1 acre farmer. And he spent a lot of time studying their business and see what sort of innovation could I introduce to this farmer so that they could by themselves start a virtuous circle of profit and prosperity. And this is still the philosophy of IDE today. Even though we have diversified our area of activity, we are still half of our activity is dedicated to agriculture and to farming in particular. But we are also in the field now of what is known in the sector as WASH, which is water, sanitation, and hygiene. And today we are going to talk more in particular of sanitation. So the picture you see here is a happy latrine producer with his wife. He's someone which has been trained by IDE and who is running today very profitable business, and by selling latrine, and therefore his profit is impacting positively the community in which he's living. This is what I like to call profit with purpose. So, as I said earlier, that NGO idea has been created 34 years ago, and a key word that you will hear quite often if you walk by our office is the word scaling up. We are always obsessed by scaling up. We are not interested in only providing a relief at a village, district, or commune level. We want to reach millions of people. We are estimating that we have reached 23 million people. So by reaching, I mean people have been impacted either by microfinance loan or trade pumps or latrine or drip irrigation system or water filter that we have put into the market. However, at the current level of scale, we are very hopeful that we will reach another 20 million in 5 years between 2015 and 2020. So we are talking here of very large number, and this will explain why we need an information system which can scale our level of activities. So IDE has a certain methodology. We call that the 4 pillars of our methodology. And that to address any problem, like Mr. Paul Pollack was doing 30 years ago with this 1 acre farmer, we spent a lot of time in the field trying to understand what are the belief system, what are the barriers, what is the journey to undertake, what are the influencers and the motivators that are going to allow us to roll out an innovation, a business model, or an activity with a positive result on the environment or the society. Only then we are moving into design, and it's a design which is always grounded on this preliminary research and collection for insight that we have in the field. These first 2 pillars, in fact, are captured by a methodology that we are implementing, which is a human-centered development. ID has its own human-centered development laboratory with our own analysts and designers who are usually very active at the initial phase of a project or an engagement. But then this is where the rubber hit the ground. Once we have designed, we want to scale. And as I was saying in my introduction, our philosophy is to use natural market force as a demultiplier for the impact of the innovation that we are putting in the community. We have several ways of implementing business models in the country in which we operate. We can be simply market facilitator, whereby we are building the capability of another actor, such as this Latrine business manufacturer you've seen earlier, or we can be as well market participant. For example, in Cambodia, we have a social enterprise which is profitable, which is owned by IDE, selling water filter. So we are open to different models. So when we talk about business, not necessarily a donor program, it's not necessarily a social enterprise. We pick up the model which is the most suited for the challenge we are tackling. And last, we are very much a result-driven companies. We are a little bit geeks, and maybe this is the reason why we have an excellent relationship with the crowd at TaroWorks. But for us, data is not only something that we are using to report our progress to our donor. Of course, this is part of the story, but this is a powerful management tool which we are seeking to improve our program and to have more and more efficiency. You'd be surprised if you come and work through the office ID at hearing people talking about business all the time. All our engagement are business-based. We are talking about marketing, about price point, about consumer acceptance, about and we are measuring our business progress with KPIs, which are very similar to those used by the private sector. So let's talk a little bit now. That was my introduction for IDE, by the way. And let's talk now about sanitation. I'm sure that all of you have seen material about this challenge. This material is showing the prevalence of open defecation in the world. It's a self-explicit map where the darker the shade of red, the worse it gets, and the less improved sanitation and access to toilet people have. As you can see, I've put a small green circle here, and right in the middle you can see a rather dark red point, and this is Cambodia. Cambodia is a laggard. It's in Southeast Asia in terms of improved sanitation and toilet coverage. So this is there is no reason for this to stay that way, and actually this map is from 2012. The situation has improved. I think that Cambodia now is in a lighter shade of red, but there are still about 50% of the population in Cambodia who do not have access to toilets. And why does it matter? Well, first on a macroeconomic level, the World Bank calculated that the lack of improved sanitation in Cambodia is costing the country 7.1% of its GDP. and that's 500 million US dollar. And the way the bulk of this cost is a health cost, because bad sanitation leads to diarrheal disease, which in turn, well, first, diarrheal disease is the second cause of death for children of less than 5 years old. And even beyond child mortality, there is a strong body of evidence now that diarrheal disease and bad sanitation through diarrheal disease contributing to malnutrition. Because for children have repeatedly diarrheal disease, they are between 35.
Yikes, it's getting a little hard to hear you, Michel. It's breaking up a little bit.
Children stunted, which means irreversible. So what's already so the bandwidth might be fluctuating on my side. So besides sanitation is at the crossroad of many other domains, such as women empowerment, girl schooling, and there are multiple benefits other than health benefits in having latrine for a Cambodian household. So just Cambodia is a rather small country. It's 15 million people, and what is remarkable is that it's still a very much a rural country. 80% of the population is in the province. Yes, can you hear me? Hello?
Yep. We can hear you. You're breaking up a little bit, but I think it's fine.
Okay, I've got the microphone just in front of my mouth, and I cannot do better than that, unfortunately. So the core engine of the Cambodian economy is agriculture, textile, and now tourism. You may have heard of Angkor Wat, and construction. But Cambodia remains a very poor country, which was ranked 143 in the Human Development Index. This map is interesting because it shows you where we, ID, are operating. We are not covering the whole country, but we are covering 7 provinces. And the different shade of blue shows how high was our sale in different districts of those provinces over the last 3 months. So what you're seeing, in fact, is a sales report, a quarterly sales report, which is fed by the data which we have captured into Salesforce. So the Cambodian government has come up with a plan, an ambitious plan, but we believe a realistic plan to reach 100% toilet coverage by 2025. It's been done. Thailand, neighboring country, is 100% covered in terms of sanitation, but it will require an acceleration of the uptake of latrines in order to reach this goal. The long-term trend has been, as you can see in green, 1.6%, but we've seen more recently, since 2010, and we'd like to think that this is possibly as a result of the effort of many organizations like ours, an acceleration of the uptake to 4.3%. However, we need to go to 5% to reach the goal. We think this is very realistic because in the 7 provinces where we operate, which I showed you in the earlier slide, we have observed over the last 3 years an uptake of over 6%. So that's the cumulative chart that we are very proud of, that shows the number of latrine delivered that the program have achieved. And as you can see, last month in January, 2 months ago, we've reached 200,000 Latrine. This is a very important milestone for us because we consider that one Latrine provide access to an household. The household in Cambodia average 5 people. So we are very proud to have given access to 1 million people to toilet over this last 4 years. And for a country which is a 15 population country, that gives you a sense of the fact that what we are doing has a macroeconomic and macro-demographic impact on the country. Okay, so sorry, how are we delivering so much Latrine? So we are using a methodology which we did not invent, which is known as sanitation marketing. And there is basically, and Cambodia is probably one of the biggest sanitation marketing program in the world in terms of scale. There is 2 components in sanitation marketing. First, we create demand, we generate demand, that's what we call the sales side, with a sales force made of, we call them sanitation teachers because they have, of course, a role of educating the households on the benefits of the Latrine. But really what they are is sales agents because their pay depends on their sales. Unlike other programs, the end game for us on the sales side is an order form duly completed, a deposit paid, and a toilet on the way to the household, being manufactured and on the way to the household. We are using 200 of those sanitation teachers. These are so it's a direct sales force. They are not employed by IDE. They are community-based. They are typically living in the field where they are selling, and we find that this type of sales force is highly scalable. And the problem with any direct sales force, which is paid mainly on a commission and not retained with a fixed salary and employment contract, is that we face very high turnover. I was discussing with an expert in direct sales, and he was saying that the 70% turnover is common for this type of personnel, for this type of sales personnel. We are probably having a turnover of more than 70%, maybe close to 100%. And I'm putting the emphasis on the turnover because you will see that this will have a big impact on the supply chain and therefore on the problem that we are trying to solve with this information system. The second component of sanitation marketing, and this is really the second half because we are not just generating demand and order form. We want to make sure that the supply side is ready to deliver on the demand that we have activated. And for that, we are working with micro-entrepreneurs, micro-business. These typically are companies, micro-companies of 5 to 10 employees, who are doing all sorts of precast concrete products, like pillar for housing construction, it can be ring for wells, and also they are doing the spare parts according to ID's specifications for a low-cost Latrine, which is acceptable and desirable for the local Cambodian market. I also insist on the fact that those micro-entrepreneurs are diversified. They are doing Latrine. It might be the bulk of their business, but sometimes it's a minority of their business. They usually have other sources of revenue, which can be manufacturing, or they may also have a rice field that they are harvesting at certain season of the year. Again, that will have an impact on the supply chain. I would just finish by the biggest challenge that we had with those entrepreneurs is that they turn out to be a poor sales manager. At the beginning of the program, 4 years ago, I just wanted to capability build those sanitation business in a completely self-sustainable way. So we were envisioning that they would have their own sales force, their own sales manager, and so forth. And this is a marriage that has not been successful at all. There is little interest on the part of Latrine business manufacturer in hiring, managing, and motivating a sales force. They are interested in building, which they are doing very well and very cost effectively. So that led IDE to take a bigger role and to go more from the market facilitator to a market participant, since we have decided that in that case we would manage the sales force by ourselves. So how do you manage about 200 free-floating sales agents and about more than 100, I think I had 120 in my slide, micro concrete business? So the way we have done this, the mapping of our supply chain at the beginning 4 years ago was to assign territory to both sales agent and to the manufacturer. The sales agent would sell and sign contract and would be asked to send its paper order form to the designated concrete manufacturer for his district or for his commune. So that work well when the demand is fairly constant, because we can assume that the supplier will be able to meet this demand. But as we were scaling up, we started to see a lot of disruptions happening in our supply chain. And we found that we had enough production capacity to follow the sales, but that the Latrine business manufacturer, the Latrine manufacturer were always disrupted in a stop-and-go production mode. And the reason for that is, as I mentioned earlier, those sales agents are free agent, and they are, stopping to work or working part-time, or stopping, and they don't send a resignation. They just don't show up and stop to sell. And when this happens, it may take the program some time to find a new sanitation teacher to replace the departing one. And during this time, the LBO is not receiving order, which is the aggravating factor for them is that they are paying their staff by the piece. They have manufacturers who are paid by the piece. They have installation teams who are also paid by the piece. So when there is a drop of demand, the LBO may face the attrition of their staff. And when we come back with, a fresh new sanitation teacher sales force, they may not have the staff to restart the production at the same level. I've talked here about the volatility on the side, but there is also a volatility on the supply side, because those are diversified. They are doing other things. Sometimes they are even harvesting, and at times they may give less priority of Latrine if there is a better activity, more profitable for them to undertake, or other priorities. This was creating huge delays sometimes, with DST still sending their who had dropped the ball on the production. And that led, of course, with client dissatisfaction and cancellation eventually. So for the second leg of this program, we wanted to have a smarter supply chain that would be bigger, better, and faster, because we have identified the supply chain as being one of the critical risks for us not achieving our target of 223,000 additional Latrine in 3 years. When there is volatility, and here I've talked about volatility in supply and volatility in sales, one way to reduce the volatility is to pool. As you can see in this diagram, in this new model, the sanitation teacher are not sending directly their order to an LBO, but to an ID staff that will supply chain coordinator, who will be pooling the orders and distributing the orders in the best way possible, taking into account a number of criteria such as the distance of the LBO from where the latrine must be installed, but also its production capacity, how much backlog he has, how late he is on his production schedule, etc. You can see easily that if an ST here disappears from this picture, supply chain coordinator can still distribute the remaining order from the two other sanitation teachers to the 3 LBO. Likewise, if one LBO stops working, the orders are not just waiting on this inactive LBO desk. It is redistributed on the other LBOs. LBOs means, sorry, it's an acronym, mean latrine manufacturer. The problem with this model is that we have established that to be efficient, we need to have one supply chain coordinator for 10 sanitation teachers. The supply chain coordinator would typically work in an office in the provincial capital, while the sanitation teacher is very deep in the community throughout the province. As you can imagine, it's impossible for the supply chain coordinator to collect the paper order form from this distributed workforce. And we estimated that we may actually be adding up to 7 days to the order to delivery cycle and delays by having to chase paper under this model. And this is where, at last, TaroWorks and Salesforce come in. When I took the leadership of this program, I was familiar with Salesforce, which I have implemented in 3 different previous professional life. I didn't know TaroWorks, but it was in use by our M&E already by our monitoring and evaluation team for surveying, for field data collection. And it struck me that this tool could be used in another context to do what really I envision, which is a business process automation of our sales and supply. The reason why I think that TaroWorks has worked beautifully for us is that first, it works when you have no internet connection. You can synchronize, you can do data entry without any data collection and synchronize after to dump your data into the Salesforce backend. But this is not the only point. I was seduced also by the almost fatty design of the user interface. The buttons were big, it was easy to read. For those of you who know Salesforce very well, there is an app called Salesforce One, which is very elegant, but not so practical to use. And for my user, it would have been really a challenge to have a sophisticated app of this kind, because my sanitation teacher typically don't have smartphone and are learning, touchscreen when we give them a smartphone for the first time. So having those big, almost clunky user interface with large button, with very contrasted screen was for me very reassuring. And the last thing is that TaroWorks turned out to be a very good, rapid prototyping platform for us. This is a 3-year program. I did not have the luxury to start hiring a software company to code an applications. I recall that when I wrote my use case to describe how the system would be interacting with different kind of users, I gave it to the then director of our M&E department, and I asked him, because he was the most familiar with TaroWorks, and I asked him, can you just please do me screen mock-up that would illustrate what I'm saying, the activity I'm describing in those use cases. And he replied to me, well, you know what, I'm not going to do a screen markup, I'm going to do a working prototype, because it will be just as quick. And indeed, 2 weeks later, I had a working prototype in my hand, which have been since completely redeveloped by Gordon. And I think I'm going to leave the stage now to Gordon, who is going to show you how we've implemented TaroWorks and Salesforce to solve this supply chain model.
Great. Thanks, Michel. This is super interesting. So Gordon, I'm going to make you the presenter, and then he'll show you the system in action.
Thank you very much, Michelle. Thank you very much, Elaine. It's a pleasure to be here on the presenter side of one of these webinars. Is my screen coming up on now, Elaine?
I can see it, yes.
Okay, awesome. It's a wonderful turn event. I can see some familiar faces here among the attendees, also my former mentor, Leo, so I just want to give a quick shout out. Now, let's carry on over here. So one of the main things is, as Michelle said, we have over 200 sanitation teachers spread over a wide geography, right? Like Cambodia is square mile by square mile, same size of Oklahoma, and they hardly ever meet their supervisors as is. So we really needed a system to track each and every single individual order, and this is the overview of it. When sales made, the sanit teacher will take down the paper order, but also enter the information and sync it to via TaroWorks into Salesforce. When that is done, the supply chain coordinator will be able to see those orders, and then they'll be able to do the job of assigning them to different LBOs based on their availability. Later, after the assignment, they'll then confirm the orders and see if the Latrine suppliers are able to deliver, and then get a nice firm date on when those will be delivered. And when that is sent back into Salesforce, everyone else has 360-degree visibility in it. Salesforce is really great in this regard, especially in terms of security. Like some people, like sales management, they don't need to change around the date of the delivery. They just need to know what's going on. And in headquarters in Phnom Penh, they're able to monitor both the sales and deliveries. And so that's the overview of what I'll show you in the live demo in the next few minutes. So, like I said over before, after a successful sale, the sanitation teacher will log down the information. There's thumbprint because of the literacy in Cambodia. Most people like to put down official document using thumbprints. And we would collect the information via TaroWorks. And so if you are to look over the shoulder of the sanitation teacher, it would look something like this. Okay, so I have an app which shows live demo. Elaine, just to confirm, can you see TaroWorks on my screen?
Yes, I can. Sweet.
All right, so I am now in the role of the sanitation teacher, and I am going to start my job. It supports Khmer, as you can see in the top. But for the sake of this audience, I will choose the English demo job. So as a sanitation teacher, I'm assigned a specific territory. So I'm going to go down to choose a particular commune, and I'm going to choose Rikshay. So I'm currently in the village, and the order date, let's set it a few days back. Okay, so I'll enter the order number on the paper form. And since this is a live production system, I will mark it very clearly. Where's the location? We want to find the person. Okay, behind the village chief. Oops. Spelling is definitely not one of my forte. Family name, man. Give a name. It's a blizzard over here in Denver today. I'm glad I made it in. So I'm just I made a snowman. And the classification is ID poor according to Cambodia. This person does not have a phone. All right. Normally, the sanitation teacher will be accompanied by a village chief or someone's trusted in the village to facilitate. So this would be, let's see, and then that's a village chief. For this family, snowmen decide to get one latrine set, and they can specify the type, and they want the installation to be included. No extra spare parts, and that comes up to the total price of roughly 240,000 real. I think Michelle can correct me later, but it's around $50 per piece with installation included. Payments include deposit. Yes, it does. And then when would they want it? Well, you know, I think they will be able to have the money by April 1st. So that's roughly when they want it. The sanitation teacher, okay, there might be a lag here because of the photo. So that's Snowman right over there, courtesy of Ryan, our agriculture engineer. Okay. And we'll take a picture of the order form also. That way our staff at headquarters will be able to see. So here's a quick box. Actually, you know what? Let's do this slightly better. So this is the stand-in for the order form. But you would normally take the picture in a legible so you could see all the information, the name, the address, the amount paid. And as we say, we can also record the GPS location. There we go. Mark complete, and then we'll sync now. Sync now or sync later, depending what level of connection you have. So while that is syncing, oh, that was really quick. See, I'm not used to that. I've been recently moved back to North America. And then we'll be able to see the order form. So my order number is 34939. And then when I look into it, I'll be able to see the picture of the client, the really key information, GPS, and also the order date and when do they want it to be delivered from. And so that brings us to the next stage of the operation, assigning orders. Now, orders are batched and assigned to suppliers, right? There's a simple algorithm or heuristic that people decide, do we give it to this LBO, latrine business owner, or do we give it to this other latrine business owner? And we call this step load balancing. And it's done by the supply chain coordinator via Salesforce community. So what they would do is log into Salesforce. Let me pull up Salesforce here. And first thing every day, the supply chain coordinator will take a look and see, okay, which orders do I need to assign? Normally, they would assign multiple orders at once in a batch, but for clarity, I'll simply change one record at a time. So they're going to go into the order, and then they'll choose one of the LBO. I happen to know that Vaughn Savvy has good capacity, and I want this order to go to that latrine business owner. I'm going to click Save. And then the status have changed to assigned. What you can see also is that being assigned, it's now my job to take it to the next stage. So maybe a few days later, after the assignment is done, I need to confirm it. Right? Just because assigned to the LBO, the latrine business owner might not necessarily know he or she has that order. And so I, now in the role of the supply chain manager, needs to call the supplier and say, here are the orders, this is where it's going, do you accept? And I'll say, this is the date that the customer wants. They say, yes, we can deliver it on a certain date. And that commitment makes the order into confirm. And the way to do this is through TaroWorks. So as the As the supply chain coordinator, I'll press confirm order, start the job, choose my name, and I'll look for the Latrine business owner down here and look for the assigned. So there's one order, 34939. Naturally, I will sync the order before I go out. And the LBO Von Steffi, they confirm this order, but they say, you know what, April 1st is not very good for me. I have a wedding to go to, so April 4th. Okay, sounds good. We can live with that. And we will send the information back. So when the information reaches back into Salesforce, the supply chain coordinator and also their managers will be able to see the status change. It's now changed to confirm, and you can see there's a committed date, right? That's the date it's committed on. And so what the final thing that we need to do is for the supply chain coordinator to go back and check with the Latrine business. So after the installation went well, the supplier, they would log that into their huge paper register, which we call the big book. You saw a glimpse of it at one of Michelle's slides. And during the weekly meeting, the supply chain coordinators will record the delivery, anyone who have canceled, and any postponements. So sometimes the household would say, oh, I currently don't have the cash to pay for the rest of it. Can you come back a month later? And that is also logged through TaroWorks through this process. So back into TaroWorks. Actually, need to upload the most recent status. Okay. Then I will do the job call check delivery. New job, start job. Again, I will most logically, I find it by the LBO. So this will be the confirmed. Quite a lot here, so it's useful to use this feature where you can type in and you find the order that you got, 339. Here we are. So we confirm that's a test form, perfect. And what's the status? Okay, it's delivered. Great. Which day did they actually deliver it? Oh, okay, maybe it wasn't April 4th. There were orders were doing well, so a day later. Mark complete, and you sync when you have a chance. And so that pretty much concludes the entire flow. You know, the beauty of the signing on Salesforce is that it's really easy for us to track and report on anything. So, for example, here we have the dashboard where we're able to see the number of orders. We can break them down by different statuses. We can break them down by different provinces and see if we are indeed reaching the PORs. So 15% of the orders tracked in TaroWorks. I just want to, you know, specify this because the orders you see here are the numbers you see after a phased implementation. Michelle's team rolled out one province at a time, making sure everyone stabilized. And so these numbers are not all the orders, that's simply all the orders captured by the TaroWorks system. We can see how the supply chain is doing, you know, how many days it takes on average for an order to reach from the order date to the delivery. So right now we're doing pretty good overall, but I'll let Michelle speak more into that. And just a note from my end, you know, just a note from my end is that we are, it's really good for me in Denver and for my boss in Denver. You know, it's very impressive that we've been able to see this. But what's more impressive is that the project leadership team in Phnom Penh, they have the visibility. And after a quick tutorial, their teams are making reports and they're having really hard-nosed conversations around the data. In fact, the supply chain coordinator sometimes uses Salesforce One to see their own dashboards, to see how their supply chains are doing. But at this point, I just want to conclude the live demo. Thank you very much for the time and hand it back to Michelle.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hello. Can you confirm that you see my screen? I suppose I have to.
I just want to do a quick time check because I think we went through a lot of really great material and I want to make sure that there's time for questions. So let me just switch back to you, Michelle.
Yeah, it will take for me only less than 5 minutes, I promise. Hello?
Okay. I think in the meantime, maybe if you do have questions, can you start typing them in? Okay, go ahead, Michelle.
Okay, I just wanted to show you a real order form that we have here. This is a real customer and a real GPS location. As you can see, this is the order form, which is duly thumb printed because this is the way we are recording the contractual commitment to purchase a latrine. Now that's at the most granular level. As you've seen, the status of this order is going to evolve over time. And I just wanted to pursue a little bit on what Gordon has shown, which is the dashboard, which is giving us an overview of the health of our programs. So first, that first line here is showing me the sales, the number of orders sold each month. Forget about the color. As you can see, we are currently selling 6,000 latrine per month. In fact, it's a little bit more because I have one province which has been rolled out only recently. This big growth here is more actually the growth of the system than the growth of the program because the system is taking over the old regime. So the different color here is showing this whoosh here is showing how over time everything gets delivered and installed. You still have some annoying residual of confirm order not delivered here, you see, which are old. There are typically lots of reasons for that. I won't go into the detail. And at the bottom here, we've got the cancel rate. And as you can see, on average, we have a 16% cancel rate. That is showing then the sales per province. Very quickly, this second line is all about deliveries. So we are showing the delivery. Again, it's an incomplete picture because of some missing province. But the green is the cancellation rate. And as you can imagine, this is something that we are watching very closely. Now, that last line is the most interesting, that line of graphic. This is showing what we call the backlog. That means all the orders which are currently in the system and not yet delivered. And we're down by province. We have a breakdown here by supply chain coordinator. I'm a bit concerned to see that Mr. Tep Sinavi has so much backlog on his hands, and I'll have on this data to see what's happening with him. That still the backlog, so this is this orange, but it shows when we are due to deliver. So I can see here that I've got about 6,000 latrine to deliver in March, which is pretty bad news because we're already the 23rd. So I don't expect all this to be delivered, but at least the system tells me how bad it is. And last, this chart here is interesting. It shows the percentage of ID poor. ID poor is a classification, official classification by the government to identify the poorest people in the population. And without any subsidy, without any special help, our program, which is selling at a price with sufficient margin for both the sales agent to have a commission and the latrine business owner to make a margin on the latrine, even without subsidy and this markup, as you can see, we are catching in our net 16% of ID poor people in our activities. One last thing, I was saying that I was a little by Mr. Tep Sinari. I can very easily drill this whole dashboard so that I can see the supply chain coordinator and have a better analysis of having a backlog creep on his hand. And that's it.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, so we have 3 minutes for questions, but we'll do lightning questions. Question from Jeffrey Chamba. How are the sanitation teachers paid, and why has there been high turnover of sanitation teachers?
The sanitation teachers are paid by a commission. So they are receiving $4 for each latrine that they sell. If they are working full-time, with a closing rate of 20%, that which is the average closing rate, that would translate into a salary of almost $200, which is more than the minimum salary in Cambodia. Why there is high turnover? It's because people prefer a job with fixed salary than commission on the remuneration. And it's not the Cambodian factor, as I was saying. Any direct sales force, and by direct sales force I mean sales force paid only by commission, tend to turn over. Eventually, we are employing a lot of Egyptians that they are first after moving to an MFI with a little bit of field experience as credit officer. We have to live with this, but this is just part of the business model.
Great. Another question from me actually is around the adoption. So you are working with supply chain coordinators. How did you, what was the adoption process like of getting them to use this system?
That's the adoption has been there's been some moments of doubt, to tell you the truth. You know, there is a theory of change which has been developed by Tuchman that says that things are going to get worse. He called that the storming phase before it gets any better. And we certainly have had a situation like that where immediately after the rollout of the system, we were performing less good than before. So that was a moment when we had to keep steady. There were small glitches, there were process changes that we had to make, and eventually the confidence of the team built up, and the adoption right now is excellent. I must say there's been a point about 2 or 3 months ago where I could really see my sales and supply manager having an epiphany, because they were capable, in control, capable to understand the data, to do custom report, and to figure out what's going on at a level that they were not able to do before.
Okay, great. And then maybe just as a way to wrap up, you know, there were 43% of the people who attended who said that they were interested in using a system like this. So like, what tips would you provide them for like how to think through this, and where should they start?
The way I personally started is it was by writing use case narratives. I was literally writing like a small novel, if you want, like a small chapter of a novel, a life in the day of a sanitation teacher with a smartphone, a life in a day of a supply chain coordinator with this system. By writing the story, it sounds silly, but you will uncover a lot of, it will force you to be very precise. And after, when you speak to your developer or the person who is going to configure the form, etc., you'll be much more precise. So this process of really clarifying in almost minute detail how each actor are going to interact with the system is an important step. Don't rush into development before you have clarified your idea.
Great. I think that's super important. Thanks for highlighting that. Okay, with that, thank you everybody for attending, and especially to the presenters, Michelle and Gordon. This was super interesting. We got a couple questions or a couple comments that this was very inspiring. So thank you so much for sharing this, and yeah, thanks everybody for attending.
Thanks so much for organizing, Lei.
Great. I will end the webinar now. Thanks everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. And